You got a Google alert?
Yes. I asked if it was true, and he admitted it right away. I felt like I could barely take a breath.
Demi Moore's story isn't just another Hollywood tale that fades into memory. It lingers, heavier with time. At 62, Demi is finally speaking with a raw honesty she couldn't reach in her 20s, 30s, or even 40s. And what she's revealing about her marriage to Ashton Kutcher is turning every old headline upside down. For nearly 20 years, she carried secrets, hid her pain, and protected a truth she never dared to share. Now she's exposing it all, and the picture of their so-called perfect love story is collapsing fast. When Demi met Ashton in May 2003, she was 40 and still piecing her life together after her divorce from Bruce Willis. Ashton, just 25, swept in with his charm and warmth, something she hadn't felt in years. He listened, admired, made her feel seen, or so it seemed. Their first conversation lasted 8 hours, and Demi truly believed she'd found someone who accepted even the parts of her she thought were too broken to love. Within weeks, Ashton had already met her daughters, and even Bruce Willis. That kind of blended harmony was almost unheard of in Hollywood. By the time they married on September 24, 2005, the world had already crowned them the perfect couple. They built a family, started a production company, and flaunted a love story that looked unbreakable. But behind that flawless image, pain had already taken root. 2 years before the wedding, Demi suffered a devastating miscarriage. She was 6 months pregnant. They'd already chosen a name, Chaplain Ray, when everything collapsed. The loss broke them in ways words couldn't touch. Demi blamed herself endlessly. After nearly 20 years of sobriety, she confessed that early in the pregnancy, she'd smoked and drank at times, and that guilt haunted her every single day.
And that's when the relapse happened.
Yes, I opened that door to drinking after almost 20 years. I wanted to be something other than who I am.
It became a silent wall between them, even as they turned to IVF and adoption in desperation. Ashton said the tragedy made him realize he was ready for fatherhood. But Demi sank into an emotional darkness she'd never known before. That heartbreak became the first deep crack in their love, and sadly, it was only the beginning of the secrets she would one day reveal. After the miscarriage, Demi was shattered, fragile, lost, and trying to find her balance again. But instead of healing, she slipped back into the same cycle she'd fought so hard to escape. Nearly 20 years of sobriety vanished. What started as a quiet drink to numb the pain turned into a slow collapse. Alcohol, pills, and relentless self-blame that drained the life out of her. At first, Ashton tried to help, but his support began fading. He grew distant, colder, and Demi couldn't understand why. She blamed herself, convinced she was too damaged, too weak, too much of the problem. The space between them grew until she could feel it like a shadow in every room. The unraveling had begun, and the picture-perfect marriage everyone admired was falling apart behind closed doors. The man who once felt like her lifeline now felt unreachable. In a desperate attempt to keep their love from slipping away, Demi began sacrificing pieces of herself. In her 2019 memoir Inside Out, she revealed one of her deepest scars. Ashton had asked for threesomes, and she agreed, hoping it would bring them closer. But instead, each time she said yes, she felt herself disappear a little more. It was like pieces of Demi's confidence were breaking off one by one. What she thought would save her marriage only left her emptier, more lost, more unsure of who she even was. She later admitted that every yes she gave left her drowning in shame, questioning her own worth. Meanwhile, Ashton leaned deeper into this image of a modern, open-minded relationship that made Demi feel like she was disappearing in plain sight. She tried to be everything he wanted, but the harder she tried, the more invisible she became. Her relapse deepened, and his distance grew colder, a painful pattern that made her wonder if she'd ever be enough again. Behind closed doors, their home felt like a quiet storm ready to break. Ashton began traveling more, staying out late, acting detached, as if their vows no longer meant anything. Demi could feel it, the excuses, the silence, the shift in his tone, all whispering a truth she couldn't bear to face. Her daughters saw it too, watching their mother fade under the weight of heartbreak and fear. The laughter that once filled their home was gone. In its place, tension, guilt, and silence. And just when Demi thought she'd hit her breaking point, the worst blow came. By 2011, 6 years into the marriage, she was barely holding on, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Demi kept putting on the perfect smile, posing for cameras, pretending everything was fine. But on September 24, 2011, the day that should have marked their 6th wedding anniversary, everything shattered. Instead of waking up to love and celebration, she woke up to a nightmare. A Google alert claiming Ashton had spent the night with a 22-year-old woman named Sarah Leal. The shock hit her like a punch to the chest. What made it unbearable was that Demi had seen this same woman before, bold enough to hand Ashton her number at a bowling alley, right in front of Demi and her daughter. It wasn't just betrayal, it was humiliation. And when Ashton finally admitted it, the truth was undeniable. He had cheated. But what destroyed her most wasn't the act itself, it was what he said next. He told her that the threesomes she'd agreed to had blurred the lines, as if her pain and desperate attempts to hold their marriage together somehow justified his choices. Those words broke something inside her. It felt like he'd turned her sacrifices into excuses to blame her. And the heartbreak didn't end there. Not long after, Demi learned of another affair, this time with a 21-year-old named Brittany Jones. By then, Ashton had already begun slipping away, long before Demi realized their distance had become permanent. Just days after the scandal broke, Demi was forced to stand beside Ashton at a charity event, smiling for cameras while her world crumbled inside. No one saw her shaking hands backstage, the panic she kept swallowing, or how she struggled to breathe while pretending everything was fine. It was a lie she couldn't hold up any longer. On November 17, 2011, she finally announced their separation, saying she needed to stay true to her values. Simple words. But behind them was a woman completely broken, drained, and done. What followed wasn't peace. It was collapse. The end of the marriage didn't free her. It destroyed her. The humiliation, the cheating, the emotional fallout, it all pushed her into the darkest spiral of her life. And on January 23, 2012, the world saw just how far she'd fallen. During a small gathering at her Benedict Canyon home, Demi suffered a terrifying seizure, triggered by a dangerous mix of synthetic cannabis, nitrous oxide, and extreme dieting. Guests watched in horror as she collapsed, convulsing on the floor. The 911 call that night marked the beginning of her rock bottom, a chapter where addiction's grip grew tighter than ever before. Demi's days turned into a blur of pills and pain. She was taking heavy doses of Vicodin, washing them down with vodka and energy drinks, desperate to quiet the noise in her head. She became obsessed with shrinking herself, staring at mirrors for hours, convinced she had to be thinner, smaller, almost invisible. Her weight dropped to around 102 pounds, and the mix of exhaustion, starvation, and drugs led to terrifying seizures and near-fatal health scares. Then she disappeared. No interviews, no red carpets, no public life, just silence. She avoided nearly everyone who cared, shutting herself off from the world. But the collapse didn't just destroy her, it tore apart her bond with her daughters. Rumor, Scout, and Tallulah later described those years as terrifying. They said it felt like their mother had vanished, replaced by someone they didn't recognize. Her voice changed, her movements were distant, her eyes empty. Tallulah admitted she once thought of her mom as a monster, not out of hate, but heartbreak, because addiction had stolen the woman they loved. The pain grew so heavy that for their own sanity, the girls stepped away. In 2012, they cut off contact completely. None of them came to Demi's 50th birthday. She missed milestones, holidays, all the little moments that once tied them together. That silence lasted nearly 3 years. By September 2012, Demi finally checked herself into Cirque Lodge, a $150,000 a month rehab center in Utah, desperate for one more chance to save her life. Even after rehab, Demi's healing wasn't instant. It was raw, messy, and slow. Real recovery didn't begin until 2015, when Tallulah, fresh out of rehab herself, finally reached out to her mother after years of silence. That reunion reopened old wounds and unearthed a truth Demi had buried deep, a truth about Ashton she'd protected for years. It was the one secret she swore she'd never speak, the kind hidden under layers of guilt, loyalty, and heartbreak. But as Demi began rebuilding her life, something inside her shifted. Through therapy, family counseling, and the painful process of reconnecting with her daughters, she started telling the truth, piece by piece. In her 2019 memoir Inside Out, she revealed that what broke her wasn't just the cheating or the threesomes, it was something far more insidious. Demi confessed that throughout their marriage, she'd been made to feel like she wasn't enough, not young enough, not wild enough, not modern enough to keep him interested. She described how Ashton's jokes about their 15-year age gap always carried a sting. They weren't lighthearted. They chipped away at her confidence, making her believe that love had an expiration date. It wasn't just betrayal she was surviving. It was years of emotional erosion, masked as humor, that left her questioning her own worth. Ashton once told Demi that monogamy wasn't realistic, pushing her to drop the boundaries she'd always lived by. She later admitted she agreed to things she never wanted, not out of desire, but out of fear of losing him. That quiet surrender became the hidden truth of their marriage, the emotional erosion she hid even from herself. Piece by piece, Demi's identity began slipping away. She stopped recognizing the woman in the mirror. The miscarriage still haunted her, and she revealed that Ashton never truly grasped the depth of her grief. While she blamed herself endlessly, he moved on, traveling, working, living freely, while she carried their loss like a ghost that wouldn't let go. Even after their separation, Demi stayed silent, protecting him, their history, and his image, even as it drained her spirit. The cheating, the threesomes, the emotional manipulation, she kept it all locked away. It wasn't until she turned 56 and later again at 62 that she finally allowed herself to speak. She wasn't out for revenge. She wanted release. She was reclaiming the pieces of herself she'd abandoned to keep their marriage afloat. Her confession wasn't about blame. It was about survival, healing, and finally choosing her voice after decades of silence. And just when she found her peace, something completely unexpected happened next. Peace, forgiveness, clarity. By the time Demi Moore entered her early 60s, everything about her life had transformed. Not just her career or relationships, but her understanding of herself. After decades of carrying silent pain, she finally realized that telling her story was never about exposing Ashton Kutcher. It was about freeing the version of herself she'd buried along the way. Her healing didn't come from anger. It came from understanding. In 2020, Ashton publicly said there was no badness between them and that he still had love and respect for Demi's daughters. A rare calm after years of turmoil. He later admitted that the divorce made him feel like he'd failed, especially after their heartbreaking miscarriage. It was a moment of honesty that showed neither of them escaped without scars. Then, in 2022, Demi shocked everyone by teaming up with Mila Kunis, Ashton's wife, for a Super Bowl commercial. Instead of bitterness, it was lighthearted, funny, and mature. A moment no one saw coming. The two women even formed a friendship, starting a small book club and proving that healing doesn't have to be ugly or loud. By 2025, Demi was finally speaking openly about the darkest parts of her marriage. Not just the infidelity or the threesomes, but the emotional self-erasure she endured for years. For the first time, she owned her story completely, showing the world that real strength isn't about surviving fame, it's about surviving yourself. Demi revealed how she'd slowly surrendered her boundaries, her confidence, and even her voice, all in the name of holding on to a man who was never meant to complete her. That, she said, was the real secret she carried all along. She had lost herself long before she lost the marriage. But this time, her truth came from power, not pain. She rebuilt her bond with her daughters, healed the wounds that once divided them, and learned how to love herself again, fully and without apology. Demi began practicing what she called solo partnering, a promise to stay whole on her own terms, without waiting for someone else to make her feel enough. At 62, Demi Moore didn't just reveal Ashton Kutcher's darkest secret, she revealed her own. She showed the world that silence had cost her far more than heartbreak and that finding her voice again was the truest form of freedom. Her story isn't just about loss. It's about rediscovery, resilience, and rising stronger than before. So if this journey moved you, show some love, hit like, drop a comment, share this story, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold Hollywood truths. You won't want to miss what's coming next.